Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is Indy Fanatics, your home for IndyCar content with weekly podcasts and feature videos. Welcome back to part 2 of the season review and episode 9 of the IndyCar Podcast. Now, last week, I'll leave a card up at the top. If you haven't already checked out part 1 of our season review, where we talked about the first 7 races, just kind of relax, go through the kind of winners, the guys who got on the podium, and any kind of notable performances or moments from the race. So yeah, we're going to jump into the second half of the season, obviously with the crowning of IndyCar champion Scott Dixon with his 6th title. But first, we got to start off with the last oval rounds, and pretty much second half of the season was doubleheader, because we had doubleheader at Gateway, doubleheader at Mid-Ohio, doubleheader at IMS again, and obviously the season finale at St. Petersburg. Not a doubleheader though. But yes, start off with the ovals, and it looked like, actually, well, the race winner was Scott Dixon, second Takuma Sato, and third was Pato O'Ward. But it looked like Takuma Sato for a while might just be, I think it was the first time, it couldn't have been first time ever, but first time for a long while, that the Indy 500 winner had won the oval race after the Indy 500. Yeah, so Takuma came very close, obviously finishing P2, but Scott Dixon's, well, probably highlight of the second half of the season.
This
his
is
only
the
win.
only point, other than the final race, where we'll talk about Scott Dixon.
Yeah.
Because other than saying low lights for Scott. But yes, came through, got the win, was looking set on track for that championship. He needed to have a strong second beginning of the second half, and he certainly did that. Turned out to be a crucial win in the end.
Yeah, it certainly did. Has it transpired on track, but it was, it was important for Scott, like we said, to get that one under his belt. But I would say the highlight, and we'll mention it in race 2 as well, Pato O'Ward really was kind of putting his statement down with Arrow McLaren, going, I'm a serious talent.
Yeah, he did enjoy the Gateway, as we'll come on to race 2 as well.
But yeah, obviously him completing the podium there was a very positive. From my mind, I believe race 1 was the one where Will Power, I need to check where he finished to go from there, but I'm pretty sure he had a loose wheel and it bounced off into the wall and then bounced across his cockpit.
Ah, yes, that was the one. Thank goodness IndyCar introduced halo systems this year. Yeah. Because I think it was Colton Herta's car. Well, from memory.
I believe it was, I can't believe that they both happened in race 1, where, Herta and VK collided,
because VK went flying over the top of Herta.
Yeah, no, I think it was race 2, looking at things from there, because Herta actually finished P4 in the race. And another positive performance for Marcus, and Renus VK finishing P6. So it was definitely race 2 on that element. But yeah, Will Power just, in a season where things didn't seem to go his way, this was another incident where it didn't go his way. So yeah, certainly interesting on that front. It was a good race. I remember the Gateway rounds as probably, they weren't the worst or oval races this season. There was some pretty good action on track. I think probably the Texas Motor Speedway, just as it was that first season, getting the rust and the track with the marbles on the top from the NASCAR before, just slowed it a little more. And I think it was a competitive race, and it was nice to see Takuma and Scott fighting again, carrying on that battle that they'd had the week before, obviously, at the Indy 500. Yeah. But race 2, unless you have anything more to kind of go on race 1.
Jump onto it with the podium of Newgarden won it, Pato second, and I actually can't remember who came third.
Well, Will Power. Had a much better day. And Will Power was like massive relief because, again, the previous day he'd been looking competitive, good pace. it was just Will Power's whole season. We're talking about Will Power because he was such a weird up and down one in terms of he really could have been competitive this year.
In the championship,
it kind of feels like. But it just, whatever reason, everything transpired against. A bit like Alexander Rossi. Although, obviously, this second half of the season, it's a lot more positive for Alexander Rossi. Well, yeah, absolutely, in terms of that. But
yeah, Pato's so close to a race win again. In the closing stages, it was him versus Newgarden. But everyone had been struggling to follow cars, make moves on, and especially late on, Pato just couldn't make it.
I feel like we've got it wrong in terms of the instant. Got it. Because VK finished 4th and Herta finished 6th.
Okay.
That might have been Iowa, because I remember it at night under lights, and there you go. So we've completely missed that one wrong, which means the Will Power incident might have
put
been.
it into the part 1 review already uploaded.
There we go. But that incident happened, and well, let's say this was the first season with the aero screens. Let's still have that discussion as it gone here, and I think. Actually, it blends into the car a lot nicer than the F1 Halo.
Yeah, looks nice.
And safety-wise, it feels safer than the Halo. You can only have something drop, but you got to be super unlucky, and you still have that issue with the Halo.
Yeah.
In terms of it. So I thought it was a fantastic addition. The only thing it has been is obviously in those hot races, hot conditions. Last race of the season, St. Petersburg, having the ventilators. But then something that kind of helped with airflow, and obviously the oxygen being pumped into the helmet.
Yep.
Directly as well to help with the heat that was actually just kind of coming through the cars with the aero screen just making it hotter. But yeah, I thought it was a fantastic end to the oval season, and Pato really from the weekend was the shining light.
Yeah.
But Joseph Newgarden getting that win really kind of set the tone for his second half of the season.
Yeah.
And that would be he would kick on. So we then moved on to the Mid-Ohio rounds, and this is actually...
toughest race of the calendar on the drivers.
Yeah. Yeah, it really kind of physically demanding track.
Yeah.
And race 1 was really good. We had battles and we had fights, and race 2 was good at the start, but it really felt like because of that kind of physically demanding track on the body that the drivers really were like, second day, I can't do this.
Yeah, it just settled into a rhythm a lot quicker. Yeah,
indeed. But
race 1
winner Will Power.
Will Power
got pole position.
Got pole and led every lap, didn't he?
I'm not sure he led every lap, but he certainly dominated the Grand Prix.
Dominated from the front.
He led, I'm pretty sure, every lap this second Harvest GP one. But yes,
okay.
One from pole position. From there. So a fantastic race from Will Power. The last one of the Team Penske drivers to get a win this season, and it was a huge relief for Will to get the Verizon number 12 car back on victory lane, as he would say.
Yeah.
Joining him on there was Joseph Newgarden.
Last Penske car to win.
Yeah.
No, was it?
No, last Penske car to win, as in Pagenaud had won that season and Newgarden had already won that season. Not the last one to win was obviously
spoilers.
Joseph Newgarden in St. Pete. But yeah. Joseph Newgarden came P2.
Yep.
So another very strong performance. And it was positive because Mid-Ohio was, the turn of where things started to go wrong for Scotty. He qualified poorly for this race, managed to work his up to P10. So worked well. And I remember this weekend, Scott Dixon was really aggressive on his overtaking moves. Like, he was like, I don't want this going down to the last race. I've got this lead. I don't want to leave it to chance that if something goes wrong in the last race, I want to get this wrapped early. So it was actually a very good race for Scott Dixon in P10. And, Pato as well in the back of the field, P11. Those two during the midfield were providing the action. But Alex Rossi got on the podium, P3, to round off. And like I said, this was just a run of...
Podium.
Exactly. And it looked like it would have rounded off with a race winner, St. Pete. But yeah, both double headers at Mid-Ohio and at the IMS road course, Alexander Rossi was going strong.
Yeah, very strong.
Absolutely. And
was this the race where you had your best timed comment of the season?
I think that was...
or was that race 2 at Mid-Ohio?
That was race 2 at Mid-Ohio.
We'll come on to that.
Moves us nicely on the race 2 at Mid-Ohio, which was won, well, basically, it was won by Colton Herta and was Andretti Autosport, there's no beating around the bush, had a pretty poor season.
Terrible.
Up until this point, they hadn't won a race, and they hadn't really looked like winning a race.
They had 2 podiums with Rossi.
Yep, and... You know, Colton Herta hadn't got on the podium. Ryan Hunter-Reay hadn't. And then, just like, you know, all 3 come at once.
Yep.
Herta gets a win. And obviously on the podium, maintaining his record at that point of being the only driver to be, when he's on the podium, to come first. Rossi got a P2, so one better than the day before. And Ryan Hunter-Reay came P3.
Yeah.
And it was just a dominating, they just controlled the race. And like we said, pretty early doors, that they just kind of settled into the pace. And for the championship, as it was going in, it was a bit weird. Pagenaud, Power and Newgarden just also settled in. It felt a little bit, it was too early in the season to give team orders to let Joseph.
I just think Power finished ahead of Newgarden, wasn't it?
No,
Newgarden finished ahead of Power.
Oh yeah, Power finished ahead of Newgarden.
Yes, because I remember it was a bit, because we thought team orders would come into play. I think Power just like made a pretty audacious move on Newgarden, made it stick. And, or...
I'm pretty sure it was coming out of the pits.
Yeah.
They beat him, they just had a much better pit stop. And Power got out ahead.
And they didn't yield. And we all thought they'd let Newgarden pass, but it didn't happen. So
yeah, I mean, and that is the thing. There aren't too many team orders in IndyCar. And even amongst teammates, they battle wheel to wheel. Now, there's respect between them. So, like a radio message between Will Power and Newgarden in the last race of the season. Power, when Newgarden made a bold move on Power, he was like, I didn't realise he was there. I wouldn't have fought him. In terms of, because he realised he was going for the championship and Will was like, well, my race, I still have something to fight for, but, you know, I'm not going to stop my teammate from going for the championship for Team Penske as well. But yeah, that was probably the most confusing thing from it. It was another P10 from Scott Dixon, but he'd qualified much better and I believe was running...
This was the spin.
Yeah, he was running as high as kind of maybe 6th or 5th at the time. And yeah, just caught a bit of grass and it had rained overnight. So basically, if you clipped any bit of the grass or went wide, bam, you were spinning around and yeah, it was a bad mistake from Scott Dixon and looked like the championship pressure was starting to build on him, which was very unlike Scott Dixon, you know, because he's usually Mr. Cool. He's like, get the points, rack them up, just get the job done. Don't take too many risks. Do it. And yeah, and then his overtakes to get back up to P10 was massive damage limitation. And in fact, actually looking back now in terms of the title race, could actually have been quite a key race in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he did fall back as far as, I think, 16th at one stage. So making his way back up to P10. And obviously Newgarden only finishing P8. Well, that massively helped him.
Newgarden wasn't able to capitalise much at all on that race.
No, and you know, you could probably, if you go from moments that a championship won and lost in hindsight, maybe Mid-Ohio race 2 is one of those races. But yes, this was also the race that while we were watching on TV, I had the most perfectly timed comment because I think I was like, oh, Marco.
Mario's back.
Mario's back. Marco looks like he's having a good race. You know, Team Andretti, obviously, we've said in this race.
He was at least looking after his tyres a bit more, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden, there goes Marco flying off the corner because he had no grip in his tyres.
Because we were on the... Whoever was following, we were on the onboard.
I think it was Russell, maybe?
So, yeah, Marco was in front. And I was like, he's looking after his tyres because Marco had been in a really good position the day before, but his tyres were just shredding up. They were not going well at all. But, yeah, it was... you couldn't have written it. It was just literally like, Marco's looking after his tyres well, spin off. I was like, oh, Marco. And that pretty much sums up Marco Andretti's season, to be fair. It just, nothing went right for him as well. And I know people have their opinions of Marco, whether he's good enough for IndyCar anymore. But he's going to be in that seat as long as he wants to race it.
Yeah.
And because of the Andretti family name. But... there were a few drivers, and he certainly can count himself, I think, in that category. Some obviously were driver error, but for whatever reason, things just didn't fall into place at all that season. And in a season where Andretti Autosport struggled, it was no surprise that Marco struggled as well. But that was the Mid-Ohio rounds, and we moved on to the first Harvest GP since, I think, potentially the 1930s. At IMS.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was a long time, so it brought back, and obviously the special Harvest GP badge, which I thought was quite nice actually. Logo for it, but it was another double header, and I remember watching the David Land video, moaning about having, I think the schedule had come out or something, and was moaning about the IMS not being a great road course, and not having brilliant races. And then 2 races, the doubleheader, were absolutely brilliant. The wheel-to-wheel racing and the action was absolutely superb, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Both races.
Incredible. We had battles all the way through. Especially race 1 was Colton Herta versus Rinus VeeKay, wasn't it?
The early doors. 2
young guys, obviously the rookie in VeeKay and Colton Herta's sophomore year, so... great battle between the two. And was that the one that Colton swung out, or was that Newgarden later on?
Potentially. Newgarden won the race. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was Herta.
And then came to the...
Yeah, it was an unbelievable on VeeKay.
He dummied the outside and then swung in on the inside.
It was a superb overtaking move, and the quality of driving on display over the course of this weekend was probably one of the best weekends for overtaking and race action. Like the guys really were on top form, and unfortunately made David, points are probably right. IMS maybe traditionally has been it's been a Team Penske stronghold, and both days were won by Team Penske drivers. So,
but
it was still a brilliant race, and Joseph Newgarden.
What was the podium? Yeah. So Newgarden won.
Newgarden won. Rossi got another podium coming P2, and VeeKay getting his first podium.
Snatched the last spot.
And obviously that was from what a weekend for VeeKay, because he also secured his first pole position in his career as well. So first podium, first pole position. It was a brilliant weekend for VeeKay, and obviously he made his tyres, was on the better option at the end, and got ahead of Colton Herta. So that he would finish on the podium ahead of Colton, although it was like a race-long battle between those two. Also was a collision between, the week before, the couple of weeks before at the Mid-Ohio race, Ferrucci had been pushed wide by Herta, come back on, took out his teammate, and Rosenqvist in Dale Coyne's best start of the season.
Yep.
And also... was pushed wide by Ryan Hunter-Reay, came back, fought, and both spun off. Got on with it, just hard wheel-to-wheel racing. But, Ferrucci doesn't compromise, and Ryan Hunter-Reay really was, I think, searching for results at that time.
Yeah.
But really didn't work out well for that.
But the second race.
But... again, Scott Dixon finishing outside the top.
The honourable mention to Scott's horrendous second season.
Yeah, again, qualified poorly and was P9. So it was important, obviously, for this championship fight starting to bubble because everyone's just gone, Scott's got it in the bag. I did a poll on Instagram.
I think he had to finish 5th and 5th in both races.
Yeah, he had to finish both races inside the top 5. And I was like, will Scott Dixon wrap up the championship this weekend? And I think it was overwhelmingly yes.
I remember.
I think it was like 85% of people said yes. And it was like, whoa. And in fairness, we thought it. I think remembering back, we probably had it seems about right that we had an IndyCar podcast out at that point.
I think I said he would win it.
Yeah.
Win a race, and that'll be it.
But he didn't.
So
it certainly was making for interesting viewing as it went on into the second race. Obviously, with Joseph Newgarden winning that, you're like, oh, hang on a minute.
Uh-oh.
He's really cutting down the lead. And then Will Power, this is the race, qualified pole, again, getting another pole position. At this stage, I think it brought him to within 6 of Mario Andretti's pole things, because I think he's 5 within it at the moment.
I think so.
So this brought him within 6, his 61st career pole. And like over 1 lap, Will Power is so good. So good over 1 lap.
Yeah.
It's still just, he knows how to just get a lap in and get that pole position. But it was interesting, although he led every lap, you know, he stormed off to the first and then they brought it in. And at first it was Alex Rossi chasing him down and then kind of fell back to getting P3 on the podium as his tyres went. But then Colton Herta had the right tyre strategy.
The man who has always won a race when on the podium.
So it
was inevitable, right?
He was fighting hard for his thing. And it was crazy because I watched this one on replay because I had work, I believe, or we couldn't watch it live, and I knew the result for whatever reason. You didn't know the result watching. But even though I knew the result, the last few laps of Colton chasing down Will, I'm like, will he? Will he do it? Because it was getting proper close and proper squeaky bum time for Will Power, but he just didn't have enough tyres life in him to the end. And the push to pass, I think they had about similar, him and Will Power and Colton Herta, and I think that's what just about saved Will in defending that lead because Herta was going quick at that stage of the race. For the championship, Scott Dixon managed to finish P8.
Oh yes, because this was, he lost out to Harvey and
Rahal.
Yeah, yes, Harvey and Rahal were going around together in both races, I think. Was it the second race Scott there was another mistake and he just lost 2 positions at the end?
Yep, I believe it was. Yeah, that was either race 1 or race 2, but yeah, it was another tricky weekend.
It was another mistake.
I think it makes sense, race 1 actually, but yeah. 8th. But Joseph Newgarden could only capitalise on 4th this one.
Yes,
which meant that it was a 32-point gap going into the last
season
race
finale
of the season. But I think notable performance to make for this one is, well, his best results of the season were Mark Shank's Jack Harvey. P6 in both races.
Yeah, quality.
Which was a very good weekend for him. Pagenaud having a better result, getting into the top 10. And Palou actually had a decent weekend on the road courses. Obviously, we know now is a Chip Ganassi racing driver.
Number 10.
And his strength is the road courses because that's what he's always traditionally driven on. So if his ovals keep improving, but only having 4 races on the ovals going into...
Not going to hurt him too much.
Yeah, they're not the worst. Obviously, I don't expect Palou to be fighting for a championship in his first season in Chip Ganassi, but he could still have a very good first season with Chip Ganassi on the road courses and street courses, of course. But now we move on to...
the season finale. Obviously, last one we reviewed, so still fresh in our minds of that Andretti dream. Another 1, 2, 3 for them. It was beautiful. They were going to smash it. But before I get ahead of myself, Will Power rounded up with another pole.
60-second pole position and stormed off into the lead initially.
Yeah. Again, another dream. Will Power going to have his third race win of the season. Finished third in the overall standings. He lost it.
He did.
He lost it.
Absolutely lost it. Had a downshift problem, which allowed Rossi and Herta to overtake. And then just lost it downforce-wise. Said that the car didn't quite feel right. Thought it was to do with he had the ventilation. Drivers had the choice to either have it or not have it. He didn't run it in the warm-up, so didn't know how it would affect the performance. So felt that was led. But it was turn 3, I believe, which a lot of drivers
lost it.
Seemed to lose it at, including going on to the Andretti Autosport. Alexander Rossi, once he took the lead from Will Power, looked like cruise control. After a poor season for him as well, it looked like he was going to finish on a high, was going to, get a win under a belt and continue his record that every season he has competed in an IndyCar, he has secured a race win. Leaving it late, but, making sure that he got it under his belt. Counts. Absolutely. But that was not the case. Alexander Rossi crashed out from the lead in the same spot as Will Power, and he just went wrong. And after the 1, 2, 3, it proved that it was just Alex Rossi that was needed to lose it for the rest of them to lose it. Because then
first we had James Hinchcliffe, who had a fantastic return and was running in P3, although then went to P2 and could challenge for the race win, lost it under caution.
And then obviously would have been okay to come up under caution after spinning out because you were still under caution, no overtaking. I imagine he could have probably worked his way back up.
But he then hit Jack Harvey.
And lost his front wing. And so therefore, bam, race done, race over. Then Colton Herta just on some was like, I'm not making the corner. Spun it around quick one and then just absolutely lost it into one, went into the tyre barriers and I think finished outside the top 10 in the end. He finished P11, which then made Ryan Hunter-Reay coming P5.
The highest placed Andretti.
Well, because Marco Andretti, who was having a fantastic race, got Takuma'd. Takuma Sato was feeling very bold in the street races in trying to make some ambitious moves to make his way up the field. Not the best ones, has to be said. Took out, I think, Oliver Askew, took out Marco Andretti.
Yeah, it was instant tyre puncture, which took Andretti out the race.
Yeah, frustrating for that. But Andretti, it was just a race that you go, how has it gone so badly so quickly? But
the two men that the spotlight was on for this race, Newgarden and Dixon, just travelled round together.
Newgarden starting P8, worked his way up. Scott Dixon was behind in, I think, P10, P11, something like that.
There was always like one car between them, but they just travelled up the field together, really.
Scott, a few nervy moments on boards, kind of thought, do I go for a move, back out of a move? Others, like Pato, to get P2, basically sent it because he was like, Scott's not going to turn on me because he's not going to risk it. He's fighting for the championship. So I could get myself a podium here and maybe fight for the race lead. And he was there and then dropped off. But Newgarden, with a 32-point difference, he did
his best.
He did everything he could to win that championship.
But Scott was always there with him.
Absolutely. And the second half of the season, as much as we said, the first part was all about Scott Dixon. The second half was all about Joseph Newgarden. 3 wins under his belt in this period, matching Scott Dixon's 3 wins in the first half of the season. It really was impressive that, Joseph was able to take it down to the last race.
To the final race. And how many years has it been?
It's been 15 years in a row now that the title has been decided in the last race. And how many points split them in the end? Was it just 12, I think?
Sounds about right.
It was something about that. But, Pato again so close to that first, and both Scott Dixon and Joseph Newgarden were so complimentary about Pato because he was, finished P4 in the championship, I think it was.
P5. I believe it's P5.
Didn't he finish ahead of Will Power?
I don't think so. Actually, yes, because of the second, and he only finished 4 points off Herta or something.
Yeah, if he'd won, he would have finished P3 in the championship.
P4.
But the standout performer of the day, and we said it in our review at the time, was Sebastian Bourdais, P4 in the AJ Foyt Racing. I mean, Charlie Kimball did a decent job getting P8 as well. But yeah, Bourdais just...
AJ Foyt had never been there all season.
Never had a top 10 finish all season. And in his third race back, he's a 4-time champ. So, although he's 41 now, getting on seniority in years, I mean, Scott Dixon's won his championship at the age of 40. So it proves in IndyCar the experience and the guile definitely does play into your corner. But AJ Foyt will be excited to start the season there and hope that they can kick off their 2021 campaign really positively. And now obviously Seb has signed up for the whole of the 2021 campaign. Yep. They'll really be hoping for a positive one, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Exciting stuff from him.
And that was pretty much it.
Yeah, Scott Dixon secured his 6th title. I was like, how many is it now? But 6 titles. Will we see another Scott first Joseph Newgarden season next year? Will Alexander Rossi Andretti form an actual title challenge?
Will Will Power come back and be stronger and improve on his weaknesses from this year? Or will Arrow McLaren be able to...
With the new partnership.
Put together a package that can actually compete for a title?
Yeah.
If Pato starts winning races and with Felix Rosenqvist as well, it would be incredibly tough, but you wouldn't put it past it.
No.
But the Rookie of the Year, obviously, Scott, incredible. We spoke about it in the IndyCar podcast after the St. Pete race. What an amazing achievement 6 titles is, and you wouldn't put it past him to get that 7th to match AJ Foyt Racing. An incredible season from him. Incredible season from Joseph Newgarden. Rookie of the Year, Rinus VeeKay. So impressive how he developed and improved. I think he will remain at Ed Carpenter for the 2021 season rather than moving up the ladder. I think the top seats have
I believe he's already been confirmed.
Okay, so he's already been confirmed on that. But yeah, superb for Rinus and really is an exciting prospect for the future on that front. And I thought the season as a whole was brilliant. Very good season, all things considered. Obviously, only 14 races with obviously how COVID impacted everything. But we had some really unpredictable results, an exciting championship battle all the way to the end. I think 7 different race winners across the season. I think that sounds about right in terms of it. Only 3 guys won multiple races in Scott, Joseph and Will. And it really was a superb season and gets me excited with all the kind of teams, how they're laying up more cars to be on the grid. So we're going to have more cars consistently on the grid for next season. It really is going to be an exciting one. And guys fighting at the top of that race.
Yeah. Should be good.
Should be superb. But guys, let us know down in the comments down below what your thoughts were from the 2020 season. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? What were your favourite moments? Let us know down below. We would kind of love to hear from you as always. And if you're new around here or haven't done so already, Stephen, what can they do?
You can like, subscribe and ding that bell.
Ding that bell. But for now, you Indy fans, keep racing.